Well guys, I do believe I have a temperature gauge. Well, part 4, who would have thought? So I actually do have the gauge this time. It has arrived, and so yeah, let's continue. So after much to do, I did eventually find a gauge and it has been delivered. So it's not exactly the one I wanted. It's a lot cheaper than the one I wanted, but it's going to do the job, I do believe. So let's try and get into it. Edit that bit out. So, well, guess it looks okay. Let's have a look inside. Of course, everything's taped up. I really do need a sort of tripod out. Oh, got to open one of these spots. Wait a minute, I need to put this camera down. Okay, so we're back again. Well, it's a gauge, I guess. Okay, we've got some wire connectors there. And this is not the gauge I ordered. I don't think. Let me just... No. Okay. The gauge I ordered had a pyrometer. Actually, it was a thermocouple, to give it its correct term. This is an electric gauge. How wonderful. Oh, wonderful. Let me just get this out of the packaging. So, now this is definitely not the gauge that I ordered. Let me go and take a look at the order page. Okay, so I'm inside the van. I've checked the doodah, the whatchamacallit, whatever they call it. I have checked the order. They have sent me a different gauge. It is the same price, but it is a different gauge, and it's also a different brand from the fuel gauge. So, as you can see here, they are obviously two different gauges. I mean, why me? What have I done to deserve this? But yeah, they are completely different gauges. I mean, okay, so obviously what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to paint these bezels. They're two different. They're different, completely different. So let me first of all get them installed. Obviously, I've removed the center cap from the steering wheel, and I am going to take this off. So yeah, all I can do is just go ahead. I will install them, but I won't actually bolt the dash and everything back in. I won't paint them until I make sure that they are in fact working. So yeah, let's get on with it. Well, On closer inspection, we also seem to be missing any actual wiring instructions. Oh, this just gets better. Oh my god, I just want to scream. So yeah, I've looked everywhere and I cannot find any indication on how to wire this. So, we're in a bit of a quandary here. All I can do at the moment, I need to get the fuel gauge in anyway, so let's just go ahead, we'll get the fuel gauge put in and hooked up and just make sure that is working. Then we'll come back to this temperature gauge. This has just turned into a complete farce. So we have the clocks out. This is the new wiring harness that's going in. These are the old connections, so I'm going to sort this out first, and the very first thing I can do is test the fuel gauge. Well, let's see. Well, that just got better. Why do we not have any feed from the gauge? So I know the center unit was working because I did have it, I did actually run it up and down, so, and the old gauge was actually reading, it was just reading wrong. So what is not correct here? Oh! So, right. I'll have to grab a very long piece of wire, long piece of cable, so that I can check the continuity all the way from the sender unit all the way back here. Yes. Let me crawl under and do that. So, I've tested the ground. That's working, and as you can see from the gauge, we've got continuity on the signal wire. Oh, isn't this just fantastic? Am I looking at a stuck sender unit after I've just put the damn thing in? So, can we test the gauge? I think the only way we can test the gauge is put the signal wire to earth, and the gauge should go up with that, so let's try that. Okay, so gauge is there, let's put it to ground, and gauge is reconnected to the center unit. I've been under there with a test meter. There is about 4.5 gallons of fuel in the van, and there is nothing coming off the sender unit. It's reading 0. Well, well, I have had one little bit of luck today. So I was just looking at the ad for the temperature gauge, and they actually have a photograph of the manual. Or do they? Because that is why have they got a cable going to the ignition coil? Oh, wait a minute. There we go. Red to battery, white to ignition on, yellow to light switch. green to sender, black to negative. Well, here we go again. I am back in the van and I am going to install this gauge. Now, one thing I am going to do is, if you notice there, unlike the other gauge, I think I showed you but I'm not sure, but this one is permanently wired. So I don't want to do that. What I do want to do though is I'm going to put connectors on all of these so that if need be the gauge can be separated from the rest of the gauge cluster without having to cut wires and rejoin them and all of that. So that's the first thing I'm going to do. I'm going to cut them about there and just go in with wire connectors, and then I'll connect the tail ends to the harness inside the cluster. So there we have it. Yeah, I don't like gauges to be hardwired into the vehicle. I like to be able to remove them if necessary. So yeah, let's get this popped in, and yeah, we will continue with the rest of this cluster. I think what I'm going to do is, for the time being, I am going to put all of this cluster and everything back in. I'm not painting the gauges yet. Obviously I am going to have to take the sender unit back out of the tank. It's going to have to be over at the shop because I just don't have jacks to get the van up high enough here. So yeah, that's going to have to wait for the moment. But yeah, I will get this doodah gauge in, temperature gauge, and I'll get the oil pressure gauge in, and then I'll pop everything back in. Okay, we've got the connections all made now, bar we do need a permanent live. I'm not sure why. I really don't understand why it needs a permanent feed, but we've got everything there connected. So only thing left to do now is to pop the amp meter out, not the amp meter, a voltmeter, and we're going to supplement that for the oil pressure gauge. Now, one of these bulb holders here, I forget which one it is, was for the original oil pressure light. Now that no longer exists in the van, so I am going to use the actual original feed to send a signal to the gauge. So I will connect that up and then we will get the gauge in, and then that's it, as they say. Well, that's everything connected up, bar the fuel gauge working correctly. So let's just power it on and see what happens. It looks really bright outside, it's not, it's actually getting dark, so here goes. So everything's actually looking good. The only thing I don't like is that the oil pressure gauge is really bright compared to the others, but yeah, that I'm happy with. It's saying no GPS signal because that isn't plugged in, but yeah, overall I'm okay with the gauges. I do need to readdress the, let's just turn that off. I do need to readdress the oil pressure gauge. It's too bright. I need to figure something out with that, but I'm packing it up for tonight. It's getting dark and I just need to take a break and come back to this tomorrow. I will figure out the rest of the gauges. The oil pressure gauge, like I say, I need to figure out the lights on that. It is just too bright. I do have some other LEDs that I'll try in there and see what happens, but for now that's it. We'll be back tomorrow. Well, it's morning again, and I think I may have figured out what's up with the fuel gauge. So I have a drawing pad here. Actually it's a bit of wood, but yeah, get the drift. So we have a fuel tank, something like that. Now we have the sender unit installed, something like that. Now my thought is, because these are actually quite large fuel tanks, they're about 16 gallons UK, British. Now, I'm just wondering, is the sender unit not deep enough in the tank for the amount of fuel that's in? Now, I've got about, I think there's about maybe 3.5 to 4 gallons. And I'm wondering if that in this tank, given that this is a 16 gallon tank, so that will be 8 gallons there, 4 gallons will be about there or thereabouts. Well, there. See the problem? So what I think I'm going to have to do is take this sender unit out and actually drop it in the tank so it is just to say off the bottom. Now, I'm not going to be able to do that here. Basically I can't get the van up high enough to drop this tank down, so I will have to do this next time I'm over at the shop, which should be in a couple of weeks time. This makes more sense to me, because I tested the sender unit out of the tank and the sender unit was working, so this is the only thing that I can think of that could be causing the problem. Anyway, let's get on getting the rest of the gauges installed. Right, I've just gone ahead and made the connection for the oil pressure gauge. Sender unit's on the side of the block, that's not connected up, so a couple of more connections to make inside, and then we'll start the engine up and see if we actually get a reading. Okay, so here we go. That's it. It's reading. That's actually not bad. That's reading about 70, and I have had a mechanical gauge connected up to it, and the mechanical gauge came in at about 68, so yeah, that's fine. All I've got to do now is figure out these lights in it, because they are just way too bright. So I've got some smaller LEDs here and I'm going to have a bit play around with them. But what I think I'll do is, before I do that, I'm going to pop these gauges out and I am going to just give them a lick of paint. Okay, so I have scuffed up all the shiny bits on them. Got a first coat of paint. I'm going to just leave them to sit while I get back to doing things in the van. So what I'm thinking about doing is going in with a couple of these smaller LEDs in the back of that oil pressure gauge, and just trying that. I thought I had a third one, but oh wait a minute, I see him. Let me go get him. Okay, I guess not, so I'm just going to use these two. I mean, this isn't the gauge, but what I'm going to do is maybe drill a hole, and then just pop them in and see what it looks like. Obviously, that's the old fuel gauge, but yeah, that's a theory anyway. Okay, let's just... That's a lot better. Yeah, that I can live with. Okay, so I'm just left those there to dry. I'm going to give them another, maybe 10-15 minutes. So I think I'll just run in, grab a coffee, and then they should be ready to pop back in when I come out. So one thing I am going to do is, I am going to put a little bit of hot glue just on the side of each one of these little bulbs, LEDs, just to hold them in place. Once I've done that, then I'm just going to install the other gauges, and yeah, we are moving along. Well, that's them all back in now. It's just a case of just screwing everything back together. Well, and there we go. There's the steering wheel and everything back on. I am happy with that. The only thing, I am going to go ahead and grab that other oil pressure gauge just to match them all up. I mean, that one's okay. It's going to do the job, but you know, I'd like to match them all up. So yeah, that's it for now. Yeah, the next time you'll see me, I will be back at the shop and working on sorting out that sender unit. So yeah, this has turned out into quite the epic journey. Well, I was going to be doing the sender unit in the transit this morning. Well, I've been painting, and of course it's raining. Ah, this is not a good start to the day. Oh look, the roof's leaking. Yeah, this is kind of damping things down a little. Because the plan had been, I've got some blue to go onto these tractor components here. I was going to spray those, then while those were drying, because it flashes off quite quickly, but while those were drying, I was supposed to get that up in the air, drop the tank out, fix the sender unit, put the tank back in, by which time these will be ready for a second coat of paint, but obviously that's not going to happen. So, and I actually leave for home tomorrow. Yeah. Well, good morning. So, at this point, this video is now spanning about 6 weeks. Yeah. It's just gotten a bit out of hand. I'll be honest. I mean, we started this off here, then we were over at the shop, then we were back here, then I went back to the shop, didn't get done what I went over to do, and we got back here. Currently awaiting bits to arrive for the VW. So, eventually, I am going to try and get the sender unit done in the tank. I don't even remember what footage I've shot at this point, but basically the gauge and everything went in, sender unit and everything went in, but I've actually got it set too high in the tank. And with this tank being, I think I did a diagram previously. Basically the tank it's very flat, and so leaving the inch and a bit gap at the bottom, which I did, means that you can have close to about 5 gallons of fuel in the tank before it even starts to touch the sender unit. So yeah, and what I need to do is I need to lift the van up, drop the sending unit out and adjust it. Well, the problem being with these, for those that actually know them, the filler neck is all moulded into the tank. It's a plastic tank basically, and it's a sod to get out. And I've been procrastinating. I mean, it's not a fun experience, and I have been putting it off and putting it off and putting it off. Well, now I'm at the point where, like I say, I'm waiting for some bits for the windshield wipers on the VW, and I can't really put it off any longer. I don't have an excuse, so yeah. But I do have a cunning plan. So one of the issues is you've got to get this thing up really high. That was why I was wanting to do it over at the shop, and it just makes it difficult. So here, where we haven't finished the driveway just yet, it actually sinks down. So my plan is to put a couple of ramps so that I can drive the front end of the van up onto the ramps. The rear will still be up here on the gravel where it's high, and there'll be like a dip in the middle. Yeah, that's the theory. Obviously I'll put something down to lay on because the grass is all nice and wet. But yeah, that's the basic theory I'm going to have a go at. So yeah, let's see what happens. Well, so far so good. See what I mean? It gives us a nice clear area under there. So, gonna get this wheel chocked up. I might put a jack under here and an axle stand just to raise this corner a little bit more. But yeah, that should work. Ah, God. Things you've got to do. Yeah. Anyway, let's get on with it. Well, I am not a happy camper today. Remember the new fuel pump I fitted basically a month ago? Well, that is now its output. So I have linked it in my video on its installation, and I will, basically I absolutely do not recommend anybody buying this. It's basically October 18th is when I actually ordered it. It arrived, put it on, it worked great at first. It's now October 25th and Amazon will not accept a return. I will link it in my video description, but I would say absolutely stay away from this pump. It's basically lasted just outside of the ridiculous 1 month warranty period and has failed. So yeah, there we have it. So I am now back online looking for a replacement pump. Thank you. Well, let's try not to slip on anything. Let's try it again. Take two. Well, today I am not a happy camper. So, if you recall in my previous video when I fitted the new engine, I also purchased a new electric fuel pump. Now, I did that round about, I think I purchased it September 18th, and it is now October 25th. And that is now the output from the pump. Yes, I'm not at all impressed. So if you saw my previous video, you know, I was actually quite happy with this pump to begin with. It had a nice flow rate. It seemed to have a reasonably good build quality. I mean, it seemed solid construction and everything. You know, you got a reasonable amount of stuff in the kit. However, today it is just not. I noticed that the moment I started the van up, you just could hardly hear the pump. Now, obviously, if you saw the video, you know this tank has been out. It has been cleaned. It's all new lines. I mean, everything is new on it. So it is absolutely the issue with the pump. So I have just been online. I just logged into my Amazon account, and I'm a couple of days outside of the 1 month. That's right, 1 month warranty period on this pump. I mean, that is ridiculous. I mean, I would have expected maybe even 3 months, you know. But yeah, I've been to Newark Auto Jumble in the van twice, and over to the shop in Newark a couple of times. So I've basically covered somewhere between 250 and 300 miles. So this is painful. Got 1 gallon out, about another gallon there. So I started this at about 9ish this morning, 9:15 maybe, and it's about 12:30 now. So yeah, not exactly a rapid removal of the fuel. Yeah, so all I can do is just keep plugging away at it. I'd like to have gotten this tanker dropped out and the centre unit and everything sorted out today, but I might still be here tomorrow morning trying to pump the tank out. Anyway, I'm going to go grab another fuel can, have it here ready, you know, for the rush. You gotta laugh. Well, I do believe the tank is empty. Well, it's out eventually, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to actually test it out. I want to make sure it is working. I mean, I know I tested it before I put it in the van, but you know, I just want to be sure Okay, gauge is in. Oh, let me just go and disconnect that pump for a moment. Actually, that'll be alright. I'm going to be running this for a second. So, let's move that up to, that's about half a tank there. So, yep, sender unit is working. I'll let it full. Right, so the sender unit is working. I just wanted to be 100% sure on that. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to measure the depth of the tank again and then figure it out from there. I'm beginning to make progress. I do have a first spacer made. I've got to drill it, but yeah, so basically what will happen is that'll go inside the tank. It'll basically mount like that. So on the only unfortunate side to this is that it is going to read full. For about the top quarter of the tank's going to read full. So basically once you get to 3/4 of a tank, yeah, and I don't know how to fix that because I can't replace this. Yeah, I've already tried. So, yeah. See, originally, when it was mounted on the tank, unfortunately, I'd left more space down at the bottom than I thought I had. I forgot that the tank comes along and has like a sump in it. And I hadn't accounted for that sump, and that sump holds a lot more than I expected. So, admittedly, I should have had I think this is a 150mm, I should have had the 170. But, you know. And these bitey things are back out tonight again. If you were watching the VW, I don't know whether this will go out before or after the VW video, but there's some bugs appeared in this area, and they're basically like teeth with wings. And they come out about 5ish every night. And like they're big. That's the surprising bit. I mean, we do have these little mosquitoes in the UK, especially up towards the north of England and in Scotland, called midge. And those things, I think they sharpen their teeth every night, because when you get bitten by them, you know about it. But here in Lincolnshire, I've never really noticed them until last year. And they seem to pop up last year. And they are a lot bigger than midge. To be honest, they're more like the size of what you see in places like Virginia. Early evening in Virginia, when the sun's just starting to come down, they all come out, and they're kind of about a similar size. So I don't know where they've come from, but I wish they'd go back, and because they bite. I mean, they bite hard. So anyway, I'm diverging away from what I'm doing. Anyway, that's going to go on there, and the whole lot will mount inside the tank. And it's not ideal. I know it's not ideal, but it's the best I can do with what I've got at the moment. I'll probably see if I can purchase one of these, standalone one, at a later date and stick that in. But for now, this is it's good. What I need is I need to be able to measure the fuel level as it gets down the tank. And right now I can't do that, but this should fix the problem. Okay, so although it doesn't actually look it on the camera, it is beginning to grow dark. I am tired of being insect food, and I'm just going to call it for tonight. I'll get back to this tomorrow. I mean, the van's not going anywhere. The new pump isn't going to be here until Monday at the earliest, so yeah, I may as well just take my time over the weekend. But yeah, I'm just going to pack it up for tonight. I've had enough. Anyway, we will be back at some point tomorrow.